Hello, and welcome back to another stream of Boomeadow Builds the State of Anarchy. It is a wonderful Wednesday night here in Australia, and I hope you are all doing well. Please let me know if the music is too loud, anything like that. Finding I have to turn it down for myself, so please let me know at all if it's too loud for you. We are jumping back into the State of Anarchy, or at least the world that is designed for it. This is my completely homebrewed world, where several campaigns have now taken place. And the campaign that is coming in February will take place in this wonderful, in the fourth era of this world that I have built. And not just me, it is also the fact that all of my past players, some of whom will actually be playing in this campaign, have actually helped me build through their characters' interactions with the world. As we have been building over the weeks, we have the Feywild map, the Material Plane map, and finally we have been working on Nethraeg, or as is commonly known in the D&D world, the Nine Hells. So, we have been working for the last few weeks on this northeast portion, and we're getting pretty close to getting it finished. We are just now populating each of these circles. The circles in my world do have different names as well to the standard D&D. So we have obviously Purgatory, which is, I feel like, a pretty standard. Then we have the Circle of Lisner, or Lust. The Circle of Nimbus, Gluttony. We then have Gerihaksha, which is Greed. Junpilka, Wrath. Dictor, Sloth. Gezamog, Envy. Kalamas, Pride. And then finally Varot, which is Treachery. So yeah. I've been working on giving it this tiered effect so that it hopefully tiered effect, also a bit of shading, which some of these I might come along and shade just a little more as we've gone down, just because I want there to be, as you can see with this section, it's a little bit darker to it as it's gone down, which kind of adds to that illusion of depth. But as most people who create these kind of things, I'm probably a little harsher on myself than I probably need to be, and a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to finishing things up. So, you know, because I want things to look good, basically. So we are jumping in. Last session on Monday, we finished up. We finished up the Circle of Gluttony there. So now we're working in Greed and getting that populated. You've never noticed what? What have you never noticed, Valcor? And hello! As I said to anyone who's watching, please let me know if the music is too loud, because it feels like it's screaming at me. So goodness knows what it's doing to you guys. Perfectionist may never. No, just my 6 years of world lore would tell you otherwise. Hello, Tyrant Dungeon. It is a wonderful joy to have you here. Wonderful moderator that you are. Yes, we've been working on the hills. It's probably been a little while since you last saw this. This Tyrant Dungeon, this is the 9 hells that I'm working on now. So, yeah. Because, you know, maybe, just maybe, it might be a location that my players go to this time around. Who knows? Who knows where this campaign may lead us? That's a bit better. Yes, Spinner, it is always wonderful to have you here. On Tuesdays, I actually started streaming Lost in Random, and I had a great time doing that yesterday. So I cannot wait to share more of that with you guys. And tomorrow we have a little bit of Lost Words. Got a very big theme going on. But yes, Lost Words, which is a really beautiful game. So if you like some gaming stuff, if you like some of my gaming stuff, that is when I do that. If you want to join me, are free to join me. So yeah. But for now, we are here in the D&D world, the D&Ds. Because of course, why not? Yeah, sure, Tyrant Dungeon. Well, I will be here until a bit later, actually. So it's a bit of a longer stream on Wednesday nights. On the opposing nights, so every fortnight, I am here doing the D&D stream thing. But next week we will be back. Both myself and Valcor actually will be back doing some D&D play, in which we play over on Evil One's channel, playing Grung Gang, where all of our D&D characters are Grung, and it is a chaotic great time. So if you like all of that kind of stuff, you know, jump over to Evil One's channel, give it a check. Hello, Evil One. It's always wonderful to have you here. And how are you this fine evening, Evil One? Why are you dying? Are we talking figuratively or literally? Because if it's literally, what are you doing here in my stream? You should be on your way to the doctors. Oh, you're old. You're not that old. I'm sure that there are some of the people that watch and follow along who are older than you, not calling anyone out. Well, I actively hate all of that. Do I have prehistoric viewers, do I? Why do I have a feeling I know who you're talking about? Without calling anyone out, because, you know. Yes, we have players here who have been playing D&D since 2nd edition, I believe. The term fossil. Are we going to be regaled with some stories from back in my day? Can't get this right, and it's really bothering me tonight. Luckily, this is the only part I actually have to deal with this, so I'll just jump. You started with 3rd edition, Evil One. So you've seen a whole change in the game then. I know that I do appreciate your advice and expertise. Oh, there you go. Well, the game must have changed significantly for you then, Valcor, between now and 1st edition. From what I have been told and what I figured, I don't know how I would have done in 3rd edition, because apparently there was a lot more math. And anyone who has had the privilege of playing with me knows that I am a math genius. Completely, totally, utterly, obviously. No, I am terrible at math. Ah, there you go. You played in high school. Yeah, see, I only found D&D about 6 years ago. So, and I've been slowly building up my repertoire since then. And, you know, I've had a really great time doing it. I love the people that I play with. I'm actually pretty impressed that a lot of the people I've played with, we've managed to run a D&D game where we play almost every week for the last, I don't know, 5 years? I suppose that is one of the benefits of having it online, though. Makes it a little bit more convenient. That's a bit better. I like that, yeah. Some of my map building is literally just this, me sitting here hoping for the best. And then asking my players very kindly and piteously to acknowledge my efforts. Yeah, I do like some of the stat blocks and stuff I've seen for creatures and character builds and stuff like this for 3rd edition. Like, I think that there was... I do like some of the variety that was available then. But yeah. I just hope that some of the stuff that I create is at least half as fun for my players as, you know, the game used to be, kind of thing. I don't know. Recently, Valkor's character reunited with their family and they were promptly murdered again. Except they weren't murdered, it's just they failed their medicine check to see if they were unconscious. Which happens from time to time, I feel like. Nice. Look at you being all domestic tyrant dungeon. I'm so proud of you. What did you end up making for them? Nice. I love a good chicken burger. pretty sure this is this one. So this is going to be the Circle of Sloth. Probably save. Yeah, I never save as much as I probably should, Tyrant Dungeon. I do occasionally have somebody jump in here and scream at me that I should save. Are you saying you never save, Evil One, or I never save? Throw caution to the wind. Yeah, but sometimes I feel like that's exactly how I'm going to end up losing a massive map somewhere. It is definitely one of the reasons that I do like streaming this, because yeah, I do get people yelling at me, reminding me that I should probably be saving my work as I go, in case my computer crashes, because some of these maps do legit take hours. Some of it is just the fact that I'm really poor at multitasking, and sometimes I will get asked a question and I cannot. Oof, that was taking life in its hands, I have a feeling. Very brave of you, Tyrant Dungeon. Sometimes those things are not mutually exclusive. They can be the same thing. Because without brave stupidity, would we really have any D&D heroes? Jim Beam, get out of here. I'm trying to figure out if you're talking to the music, a cat, possibly always a cat, or we're doing a just randomly yelling at some miscellaneous alcoholic beverage. I love your supportive support. So how has everybody's weeks been anyway? We've had a bit of a talk about mine. I currently don't have a hot water heater. That was fun. That was a fun thing that happened today. Yeah, I realised last night that I didn't have a lot of hot water and it kind of sucked. And then this morning I came and there was a lot of water in my backyard. It was great. And then because I rent, the plumber couldn't get onto the real estate agent to okay the quote to fix it. So at least for this evening, I don't have any hot water that I haven't boiled on the stovetop. So I guess we're doing this the old school way tonight. Yeah, it was a big oof. Was not happy. It is always wonderful to have you here, just lurking. Finding random notes with all of my colorations. Which, because this hill range, which I do need to change the name of. Ha 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 ha. So that could be fun. I am taking suggestions on this hill range through here as I recolor them. So any suggestions? Thank you, Tide Runner. Yes, Among Us is fun. I literally just saw your message. Among Us is fun, but unfortunately I am streaming right now. Hopefully trying to get this map finished before the game starts, which would be nice. And yes, I will save shortly. Thank you for the subscribe, Queen Zephyr. It is wonderful to have you here. Welcome to the family. Yes, we are starting in the Feywild. But, you know me, I have to have all of this stuff done before, you know, the apocalypse comes. Yes, welcome to the family, Queen Zephyr. I believe at the moment, I cannot remember what I labelled my tiers, I think. A 1 month a tier 1 subscription, I believe. Ooh. Part of me wants to say ghosties. Maybe ghosties? Let's have a look. It would be good if I remembered this kind of stuff for myself. Yes, cannot remember right now. I will have to find that later. Part of me wants to say ghosties though, is a tier 1. But it is wonderful to have you here, as per always. I'm always interested to see what my players are going to do, which is eventually going to impact the way that this world is played out. Because, honestly, like, yeah, I create all of this stuff and I create all of the world lore and everything like this, but nobody really talks about the world lore as things that they remember. It's always the stories of the things that happened within the game while they were playing and stuff like this. And I really love that. Yes, let me know at all if the music is too loud or anything like that. So, but yes, we're working on these circles, and hopefully we'll get this part of the map finished tonight, and maybe even started, if we're lucky, on part of the southern areas, which honestly I'm kind of looking forward to. That would be wonderful if that happened. Yeah, I've done that a number of times myself. To my own stream, I'm like, am I going deaf? And yeah, it really throws me when my headphones, I go through headphones like you would not believe, just because I have to use them basically every day for my job. They just die. And I like to have a decent gaming headset because I like to be able, and especially it has to be wireless, because I like to be able to move around. Like, I've got my really fancy Sennheiser headphones for work. But yeah, I like a good wireless gaming headset so you can talk around and chat with people. Especially if I have a D&D game where we're not utilizing webcams or anything like that. I do some of my best RP when I'm walking around. Yeah. Is anybody else like that? Like, you have to have some kind of movement to get into the character that you're kind of embodying? I'm very excited. Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah. See, I'm a bit like that with my Wednesday character for the Grung character. Even my Sunday character, because they're quite gravelly voices. A lot of the people I play with don't know that I actually do warm up for that, even though that, it's a game that we play for fun. Unfortunately, Hen and Jobin's voices would absolutely wreck me if I did them without warming up first. Yeah, you got a bit of the Cockney going on for that one, I will say. I had noticed for Airy. Yeah. See, your Kermit is so good though, Valcor. I suppose this is a question. When you are playing a character, do you like doing character voices, or are you somebody who just kind of does a version of your own voice? Yeah. Oh, you've probably noticed sometimes that Hen and Jobin, both their accents do drop throughout the course of a night, just because talking for long periods of time. I think one of the worst things I ever did was give an NPC that voice. And that happened, and when that happened, Of course, that was the NPC all of the player characters wanted to talk to, wasn't it? I thought I'd change up the music tonight, by the way, as well. Normally I do some lo-fi kind of chill vibes from either GameChops or chill hop music. But tonight we're going with no copyright sounds. Their live stream, which they do allow streamers to use as long as they are giving proper credit. Which, of course, I will be after this stream is concluded. I'll go through and do all of those credits in the description. But yeah, I like to bring attention to other people, to these kind of things. If other people want to use them in their streams and things like that, as long as you're always making sure you do all your proper research to make sure you're giving credit where credit is due. So this is the Circle of Pride. And then finally, right in the center, we actually have Treachery. And this is where the gate to Tartarus is, in this very central circle. Which, in this version of the game, by the time this era comes around, that people will get to see in this version of the game, the gate to Tartarus has been completely and utterly destroyed through the machinations of the previous group of heroes that stopped the Titan King from rising. Let's give Nethraeg another quick look. Gotta make sure I try and match these up as well as I possibly can. And this is the bit that you guys won't see because I don't stream the part where I put the pieces of the map together, because it is literally just a lot of going back and forth and saving and rejiggling things to make sure, like, for example, these colour lines match up. You can probably notice that all of these cliff edges as well are missing. And a big reason for that is I will put them together on the final map so they match up perfectly. Just to appease Tide Runner, I will save. But yeah, what about you guys? What are you all doing tonight? Thank you, Tide Runner. Yeah, what are you guys all up to tonight? Apart from, like, obviously being here listening to me ramble to myself. I will say this music is such a vibe. Fallout, Among Us, and Pokemon. Yes, I want to get the new Pokemon. I would like to play it after watching Uzumeka play it on their stream. It looks like so much fun. And I remember all the old Pokemon games. There is a rogue tree. So this is a circle of greed, if it is not immediately apparent. I wanted to get a lot of these crystals in kind of as like gemstones. Obviously it is littered with gold. So yeah, I've been trying to make this look as like bougie as possible. Like all that glitters is gold. There are gemstones everywhere.
Without you on my mind, not even 1 minute can end up before you come around. I yearn for the days when I see your face here before me. I long for the time to hold me in your arms. Whoa. How I wish that you were here to give me everything I want, but I know that life's unfair and we can't always have it all. I wish that you were here. 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 I wish that you were here.
Nice and shiny.
There's not a single day that passes, not even 1 minute can end up. I yearn for the days when I see your face here before me. I long for the time to hold me in your arms. Whoa. How I wish that you were here to give me everything I want, but I know that life's unfair and we can't always have it all. I wish that you were here. 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 I wish that you were here.
Okay. So when you guys are running a D&D game, like, what are your favorite elements that you like to see as a player, I guess? Like, what do you like interacting with? Because, for example, I know that I'm a very squirrel-brained DM in terms of the way that I plan out my campaigns and things like that. So, generally, when I'm creating stuff for players, there will be lots of elements that they can interact with that, you know, that I want to kind of try and allow them to pick and choose where they're going to go with the story and things like that. Hard to say. Yeah. Well, what story elements kind of like grab your attention as a player? Like, what is something that 100% of the time you will almost always follow? Worcestershire. Actually, it's Worcestershire. Yeah, Worcestershire. Because that's how they'd say it in Worcester. Ignore the terrible accent, but yes, that is how they would say it in Worcester, is Worcestershire. I feel like, although most of the people watching, none of you are going to tell me the things that 100% of the time lure you in because you know that I'm likely to then use that on you in the campaign. But would I do that to you guys? That looks good so far. Do another save. So working on Wrath now. Ooh. Pretty sparse. Too many. Tell you what, this playlist has certainly got a little bit more energy than I'm used to for these streams, and I'm enjoying it. I am thoroughly enjoying it. I hope you guys are liking the choice of music tonight. I do like some of these Dead Man's trees that I'm putting in. So, any thoughts on what we should name these hills? Because I don't think we should keep them the Hoodoo Hills. Not for hell. What are some suggestions? Maybe we can put it to a poll. Excuse me. On to Sloth, which Sloth is one of these places where I know that I have a certain tabaxi that would probably love it for all the bits and pieces he could scavenge there. Roland Hills. Roland Hills is a clever one. Can't do Silent Hills. We've already got Silent Hills going on. So this is clearly Sloth, so I kind of wanted this to just be like a junkyard kind of effect. Yeah, this is a place I can imagine Sabata having a completely swell time in. What are we gonna call you? All right. I'm trying to think. The majority, well, they're not entirely in envy. They're also in sloth. Okay. Did a quick Google search for some inspo. Go with that. Do another save. I think that works. The Lowton Hills, which actually, for anyone who wants to know, it refers to a primeval monster from the Book of Job that is defeated. It refers to Leviathan, who is apparently the demon of envy. So I thought that that was a good callback into this. So. Swamp fronds. We do like some swamp fronds. Pride didn't end up having anything in it. And neither does Tyranny. So I think, at least for this part, we have potentially finished the Northeast. Woo! Do the quick save. So I'll let you have a look at the Failware. As we return to the maps. Should we do southeast or southwest? What should we work on next? What are we thinking? I mean, it's much of a muchness, really. I could continue going around in a circle. Oh. Okay, so yes, that is what I think. Okay. Okay. Let the map load. The part of the map when it starts out really small. Not a lot of assets. We'll see how we go. Alrighty. So this is what we're working with now. Let's do a quick change of the name there because we're now working on the southeast. Haha. And you can actually see here the layout as it goes around with the maps overlaid and all that jazz. The names of each of the circles there. And we have some cursory ideas of where the rivers are. So where we actually start with this is we fill in some rivers and we remove some rivers and we change some things. So this is going to be fun. For those of you who have not been here while I do these things. Oh, I'm about to have to fight a cat, as my cat has joined me on my desk, completely blocking one of my monitors, because isn't that just what cats do?
Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe.
I feel like I've heard this song before as a yes, I have, as a TikTok. Haha.
Take my eyes open to force reality.
Night Valcor, thanks for stopping by. It was great to have you here. Thank you for joining. Who knows, maybe I inspired you to try and create a character that's from the Hells. Just so you can get frustrated with me for giving you too many options.
It's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush.
I feel like lately, and I don't know if this is just me, just a real tiredness sinking in. That everybody is really surprised at how fast the end of the year came, but at the same time, absolute exhaustion is setting in because it feels like it's been a really long year, even though it feels like time has absolutely flown. Does anyone feel like that? Does anyone else feel like that? I think I like that little lake in the middle there. Yes. Okay. So now we've done that. Let us have a look. At putting in some of these rivers. Problem is I've got to check this again because I need to check whether I actually bought a river down through there. We'll see. It might be something I have to add in retrospect, how this river connects up here, because apparently there is a river up there. World map, kind of pointless. However, this is what we're currently working with our rivers. Now, I do want to... I mean, for the most part, they do look pretty good. But I do want to... something I do with a lot of my coastlines and things like this is I go in with a really, really small brush. Maybe 2 or 3. And try and fix up some of these edges because you don't want them too perfect, too crisp. Like, I know it happens sometime. Like, I know that it does happen, that perfect symmetry and things like this does happen sometimes. But I generally like to come in and just do the really random edge and then just kind of go back and forth with the different, just taking out like these little harsh edges. And it is literally just going back and forth until you're happy. But it's these little details, I find at least on my maps, that just kind of give them this kind of natural feel. And see, this is where you can go through and just kind of be really rough and haphazard about it. And so this is going to be a continuation of the river Styx here. So the basis of this campaign as well is going to be a little bit steampunky, a little bit cyberpunky, depending on where they traverse to within the actual scope of the universe. There is going to be a lot of really fun ties to basically what is essentially the hermetic principles of the world, the metaphysical principles that make magic, not just magic function, but, you know, basically the powers and laws of the universe as they exist within the world. And so I have been looking and researching to answer a lot of these questions, because obviously in the particular setting, magic is going to be rare, or at least traditional arcane magic items are going to be rare, because time has moved on so much that the society and the way that it has been formulated has been kind of driven to almost scorn these kind of things in the endeavor of easy, fast, quick kind of fixes to deal with, things that traditionally magic could have been used for. But the problem with this is, as they are discovering, the magic and what makes magic itself. Obviously, magic is this very, very not necessarily always understood component of the universe. And so this is where obviously the metaphysical principles are coming in, of figuring out basically how magic is utilized and created within my world. And obviously a big part of that, for those people who have not seen my stream before, magic, or at least the way that they know arcane magic to be within the universe, as they have discovered, they can mine a substance called ether from the roots of the world tree itself, it turns out the world tree itself is raw magic, and its sap is essentially, when unprocessed, it is volatile wild magic. And so for generations, prior to the Third Era, when they discovered a new way to create magic, basically, or mine magic to use as a substance, and how they believed magic to be created to begin with, they believed it required the sacrifices of an Empyrean bloodline. And obviously, as there were some characters who were kind of tied into this, they were often referred to as the twins of prophecy and twins of power and things like this. This was something that the aforementioned twins were not happy to be utilized in, because one twin would have to sacrifice the other to spill their blood to keep magic in existence. And obviously, they were not happy about this. There were other things that went on. Obviously, they were told eventually that them being the twins of prophecy was absolute garbage. It was actually a massive power play by a whole heap of entities who essentially avatars of the Empyrean gods of the time in the First Era, who, not that the sacrifice was needed, but it was a massive basically power play that these two player characters, the twins, because they are actually twin brother and sister, they were not the twins of prophecy, and it was a massive power play by the avatars of these Empyrean deities who were playing a game of Zovantal, essentially to continue controlling the people, continue controlling the way that magic was viewed and utilized. Essentially, they were being used as tools, and they didn't like it. And so obviously a big part of their journey is actually to find another way for magic to be created and birthed and born. And obviously this led to a lot more discoveries of, well, is magic a substance that can run out, or is it made up of other things, which led to a philosopher of the world discovering what the world now deems as the 9 Therian principles of metaphysical principle, basically. And basically, it is the idea and concept that there are 9 fundamental concepts of the universe that just exist. They simply are. They cannot be destroyed. They cannot be destroyed. They cannot be removed. Everything in the universe pertains to these 9 principles. And so because of that, it was discovered that, well, the world tree has magic and things like this. And magic is one of those things in the universe that basically utilizes all 9 of these principles. But one of the major principles, and deemed by some as the most powerful principle, is the principle of balance. That above all, the universe, should I say, because it's not a world concept at this point, it's a universal concept. The universe will always find balance to right itself, to keep itself perpetuating. And so throughout the eras of the world that have been in play with my players, these core principles have essentially been rocked and eroded and all of this kind of stuff. So because of that, the world is potentially trying to right itself. It is not known what is happening, but it is known that tyranny is rife. There is a group of leaders who basically, at the end of the Third Era, in the wake of the government that had been in place, part of the Loriadorian unitary state, obviously there was a massive upheaval there when major players in the government all just dropped dead. And it was uncovered that they had been part of a centuries-long eugenic process, essentially creating the perfect host for an alien species who essentially wanted to enslave the world, basically. They were not good entities, and they were the Quarry, or at least the Dark Quarry, because obviously the Kalashtar exist in the world as a playable species. And it was how I explained in my world how Quarry and the Kalashtar fit in. They were an alien race from a completely different planet far, far away, and the Dark Quarry had been essentially the enemies of the state, of the good light Quarry state, and they had been imprisoned in the world's moon. And in doing so, you know, they had been kept out of the way, imprisoned, where they could do no harm to the planet of Dal'Quor. Now, I know that this is a little bit different to what Wizards of the Coast have created for their Quarry and the Kalashtar and things like this, but this is how I factor it so that they can be playable species in my world. So all of this happened. It was found that the cataclysmic world event at the end of the Second Era that had led to the destruction of the landmass known as Azuria, which was the first world that was created by the Draconic gods. Basically, a giant meteor hit, and this had been because essentially Dal'Quor had been destroyed by the elemental dragon of greed, basically. And he had consumed their world, and in consuming the world of Dal'Quor had thrown the moon out of orbit, and it had landed, basically. The fragments of it had landed here, and they had established a foothold, and they had basically spent centuries trying to create these perfect hosts so that they could eventually infiltrate in and take over the world. Which had led to them creating a circumstance at the start of the Third Era where angelic blood, mortal blood, human blood, and demonic corruption all kind of came together to create these perfect hosts. So the Aasimar in the Third Era basically were all corrupted Aasimar. However, not all of them knew it at the time, because obviously any of them could have been possessed by a Dark Quarry, and so essentially the players didn't know who was friend, who was foe, who they could trust in the government. They just knew that these Dark Quarry had, thanks to the Necronomicon, they had learned that these Dark Quarry were actually heavy supporters of the Titan god, the Empyrean Titan god, Eldritch god at this point, which at the time, obviously, I have since changed the name of this character, but essentially I was pulling a lot of Lovecraftian elements for it with the Necronomicon and Lovecraftian creatures. So he was essentially what, and I know that I say this name wrong every time, but essentially Nyarlathotep. And I know that that is not the way that it's actually spelt or said, but yeah. Yeah, I really loved the Lovecraft mythos and things like this. It is one of those situations, obviously. Yeah, I agree. He reflected a lot of the opinions of his time, which was not necessarily good sentiments. And I think we are in an age where we appreciate the work, but not necessarily the way that, well, the author that wrote it, basically. Because he had obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, which, of course, I can say that I actually learned a lot of my H.P. Lovecraft facts and things like this through Overly Sarcastic Productions. They are a wonderful YouTube channel if you haven't seen them. They do a lot of stuff on mythos. They do a lot of stuff on, tropes, fantasy writing, just a really wonderful resource. But I really love the myth aspect as well. And obviously Red's book reviews, highly recommend, because it's a really fun way to get interested in history, the way that they tell the stories. And it's where I've managed to actually get a lot of inspiration for my mythos, for some of the... It led me to look, obviously, outside Western mythos to see what other elements are out there. And it is really fascinating to see how world mythos echoes itself, how certain numbers echo itself, how certain principles kind of you see repeated. I think it's a really fascinating principle, the fact that almost every society throughout history has some concept of a dragon. Even if they don't all look the same, they all have a concept of a dragon, which, looking into some of the lore of that and things like that, has led to figuring out that not all, obviously figuring out the fact that the elemental draconic gods were part of the pantheon in my world. And they represented the very paganistic aspects of earth, air, fire, water. And we always referred to it as light and dark. But they actually represent, light represents thought or the mind, and darkness represents emotion or the heart, because they are such inverse of each other, and neither should be taken wholeheartedly on its own. So for the draconic god part of the world, the second era of the world where the realm witches reigned, and the realm witches went on to become the ascended gods of the world in the third era. But essentially, because of the actions of the elemental dragons, and yeah, exactly. I've very much always kind of tried to write my worlds that light does not always equate to good, just as darkness does. Darkness does not always equate to evil. I believe, and I am very happy to take on any kind of teaching on this, but I believe in a lot of Native American mythos, the white bull actually represents evil, I believe. The white buffalo represents evil, not goodness. So I do like that inverse. And obviously it was something that I also did play on as well, because I did have some players who were very literal, who turned around and said, well, light equates good, darkness obviously equates evil. And I'm like, well, no, either in extreme can be bad. Too much logic and not enough emotion can be just as bad as too much emotion and not enough logic, and I really wanted that to be at the forefront of what the light and dark realm witches represented. And as such, the elemental dragons that essentially were the gods of that, they essentially created the Feywild, which, of course, as everyone knows, the Feywild is the perfect example of not everything that looks pretty and nice is good, and not everything that is shadowy and dark is evil, because the Fey inherently throughout mythology, even the real world mythology, always come with a level of deep respect, not necessarily mistrust, but deep respect, and be careful around them. Because, they have their own laws, they have their own ways that they deal with things, and therefore, they are not necessarily, they are not necessarily good and evil. And it was this other concept as well, that good and evil is such... Yeah. And that's the thing. I didn't want there to be... Like, I'm not saying that there aren't good entities. Like, as I'm sure you're aware... Yeah, force of nature. And I know, Queen Zephyr, you're in my Tuesday game. You're dealing with the Exarch, who literally, one of their territories is the Feywild. And he is not good. He is not evil. He is, as you have seen, a force of nature in his own right. He doesn't seem to care as much about the force of what's going on in Zorvental. He's only playing to protect what he believes is rightfully belonging to his god that he serves. And, you know, my world has so many pantheons, not just because I want to have that variety of, you know, growth throughout history and things like this. But, for example, the Fae have their own pantheon, which I haven't, I have written down, but I haven't delved deeply into. But, for example, I know that in the Third Era, there is... the head god of the pantheon is a self-perpetuating kitsune god who didn't realize he was a god initially. And this was a player character that he had created his character, and this was a story that essentially I had formulated for his character. Basically, he was raised to believe in this god. He was a light cleric. And he was raised to believe in this kitsune god, only to find out throughout the course of events in the campaign that he was this kitsune god. And it was, you know, because of the timeline of events and things like this, he had been raised to essentially believe in himself. And so it was a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek joke that he believed in himself so much that he perpetuated his own godhood. You know. Which, given the character, he was a fabulous character who, yeah, he had a lot of self-confidence, and it was such a wonderful character to see. However, he was one of 3 clerics I had in that party, and not one of them took Spare the Dying, which they only discovered because a little old lady got hit by a wagon in front of them. And the bard of the party was panicking, wanting them to heal her, and they're like, no, we can't. We don't have this spell to stop them from dying until we can actually get time to heal them, kind of thing. And this bard's just like, what do you mean? Not one of you has like a healing spell? Like what? You literally have one job. So it was very funny. There were a few moments like that where they had run-ins with the undead and things like this as well. So, which I'm really excited. See, I can't wait to see how my Tuesday group, because I don't usually do a direct one-for-one, like, oh, well, this happened in the world, so now it's absolute canon kind of thing. I do try to space out the campaigns enough that enough time has passed that unless there are very extreme circumstances which lead to a character still being able to be alive, for example, in this Saturday game coming up in February, there are going to be characters who are still existent from the previous campaign, but that's just because druids live forever, apparently, or for a very, very long time. But I like seeing what stories are created to become hearsay, basically, and how they could possibly be interpreted in the future by future characters and worlds. And one of the things that I can tend to do, depending if I'm still in contact with the original players of certain characters, generally I won't reference characters of people who I'm not still in contact with because I feel kind of weird. I feel weird. Like, I don't want to have, if their character is interacted with, I don't want to play them. I don't want to, because that's their character. But if I'm still in contact with the players whose characters have become gods and things like this, I still go back and say, like, yeah, hey, I know that time has passed and things like this, but what would this particular character do in this situation? Like, they've attained godhood or whatever. This is their domain. This is kind of, but how would they interact with the world? What would they do? What would they, because essentially, and I have had a couple players say, oh, well, it's not my character anymore, like, because I'm not the one playing it. And I'm like, if that's what they want to believe, that's fine. But I'm like, well, I try to create a world where just because a campaign ends doesn't mean that the character's story has to, because of the way that I've designed the world. And even if you don't get to play that character anymore because the campaign ended, you can still have a say. Your character can still have achieved things, Like, what was their goal? What would have they likely wanted to have done? This was essential. And, in the post-game kind of chats about it, I'm like, well, this is what I had planned, but, at the same time, if you don't think your character would have done something like that, then, I'm not going to veto it because it's your character. Like, Queen Zephyr, I'm pretty sure your Tuesday character, they clearly have descendants in the world, whether they be found family or biological. Which is hilarious because I'm fairly certain that your character's brother also has play in the world somehow, and there has been the potential of a storyline that might be followed up coming into play that I'm very excited to see. And of course, anyone who has... One of the things that I've tried to do as time has gone on as a DM, one thing that I kind of learned to do, especially if it was going to be something like a really big potential change or a problematic thing that came up for a player character. Like, I don't want to ruin surprises for people, but at the same time, if I think that surprise is going to really be problematic for them and it wasn't necessarily foreshadowed very well, because sometimes I don't necessarily always foreshadow the best, or we're randomly following a story arc that I hadn't anticipated, because players be players, let's be honest. I do try to tend to talk to the player in question before absolutely throwing them under the bus with a concept, just so that they actually get a say, Okay, well, I think this is a really good spot. Do a save to take a break. So I might just do that to grab a drink, grab a quick snack, because I am a snack badger, I believe I have been called. So just doing a quick save, but I will be back in a couple of minutes. So I will leave you playing with the trailer for the game, and I will see you in a couple minutes. Okay, and I am back. I hope everybody had a good break. Okay, so we've been working on these rivers, which I believe are the River Leth and the River Styx. I did save. I did save before I went on break. Because it is important. Problem is, and just need to check because I cannot for the life of me remember if I called it the River Styx or just River Styx. River, just river. Yeah. However, well, that's why it snakes quite a lot through the map, this particular one. There is no outline on this, apparently. Although I did space it out a little bit. And so this is the River Leth over here. Hello, Gregor's man. How are you this evening? Thank you for joining us. I am just doing some map building for my D&D game. Cold but good. Yeah, we're starting to warm up here in Australia. Well, we're trying to. Someone forgot to tell the weather that it is almost summer for us. And we would like it to stop raining. Okay, thanks. Because, yeah, we're used to, like, by now, getting close to, like, 30, 40 degrees Celsius. So that would be nice. I mean, I say that, but we also complain when it's ridiculously hot too, so there's a no-win situation. But yeah, thanks for joining us on the stream. I mostly sit here. Currently we're working on the third portion of what is essentially the 9 hells in my world. The 9 circles of hell, should I say. And it doesn't look like much now, just looking at this map, but we have been slowly throughout the weeks working on the Feywild, the Material Plane, and the hells. And we finished up this top right-hand quarter earlier. So this is what we're kind of working with now. This is kind of like the starting process. Some interesting features. Okay, so this is where we've got some interesting things going on. So basically, within my world, we have moved away from... Originally, it was the kind of world tree cosmology. We've started moving towards a triad world cosmology as after the events of an event known as the Merge, it has left the material planes, the Feywild, and the hells kind of like sandwiched all together on top of each other, creating like a 3-way parallel plane on the material plane that kind of shadow over the top of each other, which is obviously fucking terrible. Pardon my language. So, in amongst all of this, I am building the hells. The center circle of hell, which is called Varot, or the Circle of Treachery, it does have the gate to Tartarus in it, which leads to essentially the great eldritch prison that's keeping all of the eldritch deities kind of imprisoned. But it was destroyed thanks to the previous heroes of the world. So this campaign will be starting in February next year. But essentially, there is a whole heap of world lore and mythology behind it. The campaign... Well, the world has been existed now for 6 years, and this will be the 4th campaign that has taken place in the world. So it's basically the 4th era of the world, and so all of the old player characters and things, all of the decisions they made within the world up until this point kind of have been reflected down to essentially this world that the new player characters are going to be playing in. But in addition to that, the eras that each campaign has taken place in is far enough apart that those previous kind of stories, a lot of it is hearsay. No one knows if those events really happened, you know, as history has a tendency to do. So basically each campaign can, fade it into legend. So each campaign can, while there are nods and references and, you know, things that they can look up, and for some of the players who have played in a previous campaign, they have that kind of like, ooh, like Easter egg kind of stuff. But new players, while there's a lot of world lore, which is mildly terrifying, I'm aware, but it's not terribly integral that they have to know it all, so that, you know, it can be played by anyone, basically. So, and enjoyed by anyone, obviously. And anyone who has kind of like joined me during these map building streams, I do talk about some of the lore. Exactly. I do talk about the lore. I talk about how things have come into be. I talk about old stories. This particular... I do tend to do the big world kind of campaigns of like, there is it requires heroes to, not necessarily heroes to fix the world. Like, they don't have to necessarily be heroes, but they at least have to be aligned that they don't want the world destroyed, or they don't want the universe to end, or they don't want the gods to be as influential in the world and, controlling people. And, so the party has to be kind of aligned in what they're trying to do. This particular setting, this 4th era campaign that will be played out, is essentially the universe has basically been knocked so off kilter that the universe itself, the universal metaphysical principle of balance, is essentially trying to right the universe. Yeah, they have. Well, that's the thing. I don't turn around. So I very loosely rely on alignment. I don't require every character in the party to be good. They don't have to be good. There's only kind of like 2 alignments that I am a bit iffy on, because I do find it very hard for them to necessarily gel well with groups, and that is obviously the extreme ends, especially because I run very grey area morality kind of campaigns a lot of the time. As in, the bad guys aren't always just they're bad because they're bad. They might have a reason, and that doesn't necessarily mean you have to empathize with them and, give them a second chance. Like, they can still be a horrible person. They can still be evil, but, they usually have reasons why they are that way. And things like this. So I generally get very iffy if someone says they want to be chaotic evil, just because, chaotic evil is one of those ones that they're just crazy evil at that point, and they can't be trusted. Like, no one can trust them, and it doesn't really work well in a party. And this one's more of just a personal pet peeve. I kind of have personal issues with lawful good too, just because my experience with it is a lot of people just play it as lawful stupid. And, lawful good can be just as bad as chaotic evil. And there is a very fine line between lawful good and lawful evil as well, So, yeah, and I like that idea of, like, the only thing that I do turn around to the party is that no matter what they kind of factor their alignment around, they at least have to be aligned in their goal. So the goal being usually stop an evil eldritch deity from breaking out of Tartarus and corrupting the world, or stopping a meteor that's going to destroy the world as they know it, or they have a common goal. They don't have to inherently be good to achieve that. Like, they can do it for selfish reasons, but they at least have that joint goal so that they can move forward as a party. So, because otherwise you can't trust each other, and how does a party function like that? So, yeah. Yes, there are physical. So the only reason I've got these guideline rings here right now is because it tells me where essentially to put the cliffs and things like this. So my circles of hell obviously are a tiered down kind of step. If I just change your view, you can kind of start to see, because this is the first piece that I finished. So this should give you the indication of what the entire map will look like. And basically I've just got the rings there as a guideline so that they can match up. Yeah. So, and obviously there's a shading as it goes down. And as you go down through the 9 layers of hell, obviously I have based them around the sins as well. So kind of the sins. We've got if I come back out here, we've got obviously Purgatory, the Circle of Lust, Circle of Gluttony, Circle of Greed, Circle of Wrath, Sloth, now I gotta think, Wrath, Sloth, Envy, Pride, and then obviously Treachery in here. And obviously these names kind of have ties into that as well. So yeah. And there is so as you could see as I scroll through these, each of the maps actually look relatively the same. They've got the same land masses, and that ties back to the fact that they are parallel over each other. So when the merge happened, essentially it warped parts of each of the planes. So there is exactly the same land masses, but they each have their own kind of elements to them that belong to the particular plane it's from. So the Feywild, for example, is divided up into the 4 seasonal planes, the 4 seasonal kind of courts, but essentially they are stuck on what is essentially the material plane land masses. And some of those things tie over. The campaign itself will be starting in the Feywild, which has essentially become predominantly the main home of anyone who is good, because the material plane itself has actually been overtaken by some tyrannical witch queens who are the rulers of it. And basically I have been formulating a list of playable species and traits and things like this, because I do still keep the attributed species ability scores and things like that, but I wanted to also give a huge variety of playable species for people who wanted to play characters. So for example, if they want to play, so for example, there's no variant human in my particular setting, but there's a reason for that. It's because there is no variant human, but there is the Feywild or Feowerian human. There is the Anthalamerian human, which is essentially your material plane human. And then there's even a Nethraeg or a Hell human. And each of them have different traits and things. You know, their base is a human, but they have different traits. All of the characters who are born in the Feywild, regardless of what they play, they do get the Fey-born traits. So they can't be charmed, etc., things like that, because they're from the Feywild. Regardless of whether they're human, elf, Aarakocra, you know, each their own. They all get the Feywild trait because they're all from the Feywild. I have added a whole heap of custom species as well. We've got everything from different subspecies. So the Aarakocra subspecies, they're now not just eagle type Aarakocra. They can be like a blue jay, peacock, penguin. We've got obviously I'm Australian, so there is also the now I can't remember what it's called. It's really bothering me because it's not an emu, but we have a bird over here, a big flightless bird. And it's bothering me because it's right on the tip of my tongue. But essentially, yeah, I wanted to give a whole heap of subspecies. Cassowary, that's the one, thank you. So yeah, there's a cassowary subspecies, there's parrot subspecies, peacock, all that kind of stuff. So, and obviously these all have different kind of skills and abilities. Yeah, murder birds. They literally have they literally have a racial ability called stomp stomp bitches. And of course they can't fly, but they can swim, and they have I think they have a extra movement speed for obvious reasons. But then we've also added completely custom species in, like the Cockade, which is essentially a dog race. So depending on what your base dog is as well, because you can be anything from like a Great Dane, anthropomorphic dog person, to a Chihuahua, to a Corgi, and each of those have attributions as well. Yeah, the fake corgis. Yes. But yeah, so I wanted to give a lot of choice, which I have been told is both good and bad because now they have to decide what they're going to play. But the other thing is as well, so I want this game to have 6 players at max, between 5 and 6. I have a couple of players already, but obviously I want to give some of, other people a chance to play in my world, play with me. The game will be streamed in February, but I will be opening up applications on Roll20 in December for the additional player characters for that. So yeah, if it sounds like any of the stuff I talk about sounds like something you'd be interested in, feel free to check it out. But yeah, so basically I have just been going through and trying to rename seas and things like this, and I do ask I do that really terrible thing where I ask my viewers and my followers and my subscribers what kind of names or things that they would like to see in the world, which is exactly why you probably saw the Hells now has hot pink mountains, a hot pink mountain range. I made that mistake. There is also a city called Bob in every circle of hell. You know, yeah, it's, yeah. For the most part, it is kept nice and mostly, yeah, live in Bob. There is also there are a couple of hills which have been lovingly called the Butt Hills, and there is the town of Beggar's Hole between them. Yeah, I learned very quickly not to actually ask my players per se to name places. Yeah, that's not even the worst of it, Gregor's man. That is not even the worst of it. It is terrible if anyone ever gets to zoom into these maps, because when I save these maps, I do save them to 8K, so they're perfectly readable. And so people can go in and find all of the lovely little town names and things like this that some of them have called. And some of them have even given them world lore, which is both great and terrifying. So yeah, it is a thing that happens. So, for example, these ones here, I won't actually change the names of these archipelagos and islands. They are floating islands, but they are actually a carryover from the material plane. And so I don't want to change the names of those archipelagos because obviously they are carried across. However, they are going to be pertaining to the hellscapes that they belong to. See, now I'm really tempted here because this is This is a straight that will end up running through the circle of lust. And I want, you know, I try to be kind of careful but clever. I think I've got an idea. Because obviously Latin is usually the spoken language of the demons. So that should work. Hopefully. Your demons speak German, see? I like that. That's clever. Why German? See, I make mine the fact that both demons and... well, demons and devils, because I use them simultaneously, like together. But both my demons and angels both speak Latin. Celestial and demonic is the same language, but different dialects. See, that's clever. I like the way that you involve your player in that. I will say, at the risk of sounding terribly insensitive, German can sound like an angry language. I can understand it. It can sound terrifying and confronting. So I can understand that. I can get behind that. See, that is also, I will agree, that is also a clever way for your characters to keep their secrets, basically.
Got 'em too. Just feel like maybe I could lose
So Purgatory is all green. I was kind of styling it over like the Scottish and Welsh forests. So yes, I also go through and I recolor everything. Which I do have notes in front of me. It's taken me a while to remember to write everything down as I've been doing it, but we got there in the end, I believe. So yes. This is one of the reasons why I like Incarnate though. They have a lot of assets. I can't wait until they do a bit more modern kind of stuff. However, that being said, I mean, I don't necessarily need the cyberpunky stuff just yet anyway, but because they do have some steampunky kind of stuff, so it's more for when I eventually build, once I finish these maps, I'll be building the town maps, and I'd really love to be able to have some assets that would allow me to build slightly more modern cities without having to basically create my own assets, which you can do in Incarnate. It's just a very long process, essentially drawing that myself and creating skyscrapers and things like that. So, but yeah, so I want the material plane to have a very Blade Runner-esque kind of feel to it. Blade Runner-esque, Star Wars City-esque kind of that bit more sci-fi, cyberpunky feel to it. Oh, this is going to be fun doing these ones. So there we are. There's the base circles. Okay. So these are a standard. Finally over here. Turn that around. Thanks, Evil One, for showing up. It was wonderful to have you here. I was just going to finish placing these cliffs and then I was going to actually finish up myself. Because that seems like a sensible thing to do. Thank you for being here. It was wonderful to have you guys here. I do very much appreciate it, and I cannot wait to see you guys next week for Grungang. The chaos continues, exactly. Bye, Queen Zephyr. Bye, Tide Runner. Thank you, and I will remember to save. Okay. And with those cliff faces done, I'm going to save as Tide Runners suggested before they left. I wanted to thank everybody for joining me this evening. It was wonderful to have you here. It's always wonderful to have you here for a chat. I will be back tomorrow for Boomeadow Plays Lost Words. If you like what I do or you want to see more of what I do, please don't hesitate to hit the follow button, or if you're feeling extra generous, please don't hesitate to subscribe and click the follow button to be notified whenever I go live, which you can see when all of that is down on my schedule down below. If you want to know where to find more of me or just have a chat or any of that stuff, you can find my Twitter, which is Booberry You can also find all of these videos up on my YouTube channel of the same name, Boomeadow, which you can communicate with me through there on the comments and things like that as well. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow for Boomeadow Plays. If that is not really your thing and Xbox games are not really your thing, you can catch more of my stream as I will be streaming again on Saturday night. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you all again later. Bye.